If you ask most people what it takes to get rich, they picture a dark room, glowing screens, and endless data. We're taught that finance is a hard science, a strict discipline driven entirely by optimization, high IQs, and perfect math. But if building wealth is simply a matter of knowing the right formulas, it doesn't explain why highly educated, mathematically brilliant financial experts regularly lose everything. Take Rajat Gupta. He reached the pinnacle of corporate success with hundreds of millions of dollars in the bank, only to throw it away for a slightly higher number on a screen. He committed insider trading to gain even more, risking everything he had and needed for something he didn't even require. On the flip side, we see janitors and secretaries with no formal training who quietly amass millions over their lifetimes simply by staying out of their own way. When geniuses go broke and average savers retire wealthy, it suggests that spreadsheet math is only a small part of the equation. In practice, doing well with money is 80% behavior and only 20% head knowledge. Lasting wealth requires abandoning the idea of the perfect calculator and focusing on the messy, human variables we actually control. Mastering those flawed impulses is the only reliable way to keep what you earn. Our individual views of money are shaped by the specific economic era we grew up in. A person who experienced the severe economic trauma of the Great Depression views risk completely differently than someone born during a booming economy. Your personal experiences make up a tiny fraction of world history, but they shape 80% of how you see the world. We tend to assume that financial outcomes perfectly reflect hard work and that our effort equals our reward. But that ignores the invisible siblings of luck and risk. Bill Gates had immense talent and worked incredibly hard, but he also had astronomically rare luck. As a child, he had access to one of the few computers in the world. Gates had a high school friend named Kent Evans who shared that exact same rare talent and drive. But Kent's life and potential were cut short by an uncontrollable, tragic mountaineering accident before graduation. Extreme financial outcomes always involve elements of invisible luck and uncontrollable risk. Knowing this means we should stop judging others for their financial choices and practice deep humility regarding our own successes. Traditional finance constantly pushes us to maximize returns on every single trade, but human psychology requires a different strategy. The real objective is simply surviving long enough to avoid financial ruin. Survival lets you use the quietest, most effective tool for wealth creation: compounding. Consider Warren Buffett. His massive wealth didn't come from quick, high-risk trades. It came mostly after age 65 because of decades of compounding. This chart shows exactly how compounding works over a lifetime. Notice the long, flat curve for the first several decades. The massive exponential growth only occurs in the final 20% of the timeline. Getting rich requires optimism and taking big risks. Staying rich requires frugality and a degree of paranoia. If you take too much risk and lose your capital, the math stops. To survive long enough to let compounding work, you have to adopt a barbell mindset. You need to be highly optimistic about the long-term future, but deeply paranoid about short-term disasters. A mathematically optimal financial plan is entirely useless if it ignores human emotion. Over a lifetime, your goals, your desires, and your fears will inevitably change. It's easy to commit to high-risk investments on a spreadsheet. It is incredibly difficult to hold on to those investments when the market drops 20% in a week, and primal fear suddenly overrides the math. An imperfect, reasonable financial plan that lets you sleep at night will always outperform a strictly rational plan that you abandon the moment panic sets in. If we master our behavior and survive the short term, we have to look closely at what we're actually building. We have to redefine the end goal. Society admires flashy spending. When we see someone driving a brand new Ferrari, we assume they are wealthy. But this is the man in the car paradox. We admire the car, not the driver. Flashy spending only proves how much money you used to have, not what you actually possess. True wealth is the exact opposite of flashy spending. Rich is what people see. Wealth is the money not spent. It is your savings, your investments, and the powerful urge you suppress to show off to others. That invisible, unspent wealth pays an incredible dividend. It provides complete control over your own time, giving you options, flexibility, and independence to secure your family's peace of mind. To keep that peace of mind, you have to actively define what enough means for you. If the goalpost keeps moving, you will eventually risk what you have and what you need for things you don't. Financial freedom begins with the realization that your unspent savings buy a luxury no Ferrari can, the ability to wake up every morning and do